दास के हृदय विहारी।
Hari Om everyone. Didn't realize that the volume was not on and the bhajans only I was enjoying. Glad to see all of you. Hope and pray that all of you are doing well. Basking in the baking sun of Texas. We will start with the invocation, and then Hari Chaitanya will not be here today. So Brahmacharini Divya will go first, and then I will take over and go through the shloka. Like last week, this week also, I will do the 2 shlokas. I have to check what shlokas they are. I think it is 44th and 45th. No, 45th and 46th, I think. Okay, let us begin. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। sthāṇau puruṣavadbhrāntyā kṛtā brahmaṇi jīvatā jīvasya tāttvike rūpe tasmindṛṣṭe nivartate tatvasvarūpānubhavādutpannaṃ jñānamaṃjasā ahaṃ mameti cājñānaṃ bādhate digbhramādivat. So those are the 2 shlokas for today. So now I will put there you go. I don't think we can hear you.
How about now? Okay, cool. So last week we saw 2 verses, the first one of which where we saw the analogy of the utterni, which describes the process of manana and nididhyasana, that we take what we have heard in Shravana and we churn that which we know to remove the identity that we currently have with our ego and realize the true nature of ourself. And then the next verse we saw that swaparanakante. So it's that understanding or realization, it is humbling to us, right? That I have been this the whole time, I just didn't recognize it. So it's a sense of humility that brings that, realization is not this grand gesture with a halo. It is a very humbling experience. And so now today's verse 45 and 46, we will get into a little bit more detail in what exactly does it mean to know. So with verse 45, sthāṇau puruṣavadbhrāntyā. So here is the famous example that we know from Gurudev. It's the ghost on the post, that we see a purusha on a sthāṇau. So it's this illusion that we're seeing. Kṛtā brahmaṇi jīvatā. And because of this misconception, this illusion, it is analogous to seeing the individuality of jiva in the Brahma, in Brahma. And therefore, jīvasya tāttvike rūpe tasmindṛṣṭe. So we're asked to look at the real nature of what this individuality is and come to see that it is in that Brahman itself. So let's go back and break it down one more time. That sthāṇau puruṣavad, that just as you see a ghost on a post, it is due to delusion, meaning that it is not truly there. Misapprehension of the ghost only arises with the non-apprehension of the post. So that's a very key point right there. Then because of that non-apprehension, it gives rise to the very existence of that ego and all of its world that it projects, which is the world of plurality. So this is an important concept, that we take our own ego and our individuality to be very real. And even though Vedanta keeps telling us that it is an illusion, we have to understand that the very existence of jiva is an illusion. And because of our identity with our individuality, from that perspective, the jagat with its plurality arises from there. So this is a very important sequence, that from our own perception, the world is understood from this perception of ego. So we're asking to really take our jīvatva and investigate into what is it actually. Tattva is the essence. Tatvike rūpe. So what is the real nature of it? And when we come to see it, we see that it is only Atma itself. So the very real nature of the ghost is in fact the post. So we have to come to see the reality of the post. And when that happens, nivartate. That's the only verb that's given in this verse. That the jīvatva bhavana ends. So when I realize that I am the dream, that I, the dreamer, is in fact the waker, upon that realization, the dreamer and the identity of the dreamer and the dream ends. And so the reason why Gurudev translates purusha, or adapts the meaning of the word puruṣavat to ghost, is because it gives us that vivid feeling that often we are afraid of ghosts, right? And so when we think from that egoistic perspective in the world of plurality, with it comes this huge mountain of fear, right? That limitation itself produces fear, which is why Gurudev uses ghost as a illustrative way of indicating ghost comes with fear. And this fear is self-made. And Gurudev talks about it as that the ego constructs a cobweb onto itself and suffers within it. And immediately I was thinking of Lord of the Rings. I think it might be in the second or third movie, where Frodo goes into a tunnel and there's a spider and he gets caught in that web. And it's very graphically given of Frodo literally decomposing within a cobweb. And that image struck my mind, right? But it's only to illustrate that all of our sorrow isn't coming from the world outside. It is not coming from other people. It's not coming from, circumstances. It is all coming from within with our own misunderstanding. So there are two things in this verse that Sri Adi śaṅkarācarya ji takes further. And those two concepts is drishte, meaning what do you mean by seeing? Or in this case, what do you mean by understanding? And the second point is, how does knowing this actually fix this cobwebs that we're talking about? That from how does the problems that arise from identifying with the ego get resolved by understanding in its true nature? So that will lead us to verse 46. So tattva, the very first word is tattva, which means reality, but it's tatvasvarūpa. So what is the nature of this reality? With this, we have to have anubhavat. This is a understanding or experience. And Gurudev explicitly says, this is not studying from a book. It's not writing notes and be able to perfectly regurgitate the meaning of this is what Atma is, this is what Jiva is, this is what Jagat is, right? Anubhavat means that this is a direct, subjective experience. Again, we saw in prior verses that it is without the instruments, that unaided illumination that is self-revealing. So it's a very subjective experience. By experiencing subjectively that nature of reality, what happens? Utpannaṃ jñānamaṃ. That from this is born true knowledge and understanding. So this again comes back to defining what is that drashte that we saw in the previous verse. Now, what happens once this knowledge occurs? This experience has happened. Anjasa bādhate. So instantly ends ahaṃ mama iti ajñānam. Instantly, the ajñānam, which takes the form of the ahamness and mamamness, I-ness and my-ness, all of that instantly ends. Now, in Sri Adi śaṅkarācarya ji foresees a possible doubt. This is, I guess, a potential purva paksha that could come up. You could ask, when it comes to our ordinary sense of knowing of objects, how can knowing one object remove ignorance of another object? So an example is, if I come to know the concepts of physics, does that remove my ignorance of music and dance? No, they're independent of each other. If I come to know one person, does this mean that I end up knowing everyone else? No. So it's hard for us to, this is like very nuanced, right? This purva paksha is very nuanced in asking, how can the knowledge of the self remove the ignorance of the jīvatā and ajñāna of ahaṃ and mama? Aren't they two separate things? Which is why Sri Adi śaṅkarācarya ji gives the example of digbhramādivat, meaning that there is a confusion in directions. I can admit I have no sense of direction without the GPS. I'm not telling me which directions to go. I'm terrible at directions. So this is a very, natural experience that we have. So it's good to investigate this specific example to answer this purva paksha. So let's say that we're going down the road and I was given the direction, keep heading south until you reach a certain point and then turn east. But as I'm walking, let's say I get distracted and turned around and there was gusts of wind or whatever was my experience along the way, I get turned around and now I've lost my sense of direction. And I see the building I was supposed to get to, but I don't know which way is east. And somebody is walking down the road and they look around and say, oh, that temple over there, I recognize that temple. I know that is in the southern direction. Immediately, what was I looking for? Direction of east. But the person told me that is definitely the direction of the south. Because I was given the direction of south, I immediately know where east is. So the knowledge of south removed the ignorance of east. And this is very possible because north, south, east, and west are all interconnected and have a relationship. That is why one knowledge removes ignorance of the other. because of that interconnectedness. So with this example, let's come back. How is it that knowing the Atman and subjectively experiencing the Atman remove the ajnana that takes form as ahaṃ and mama because of that relationship between non-apprehension and misapprehension? That there is a relationship between the sense of self. Right now, it is as an individual limited ego, when the very true nature of it is that all-pervading self. So by coming to realize the very nature of the self, I am able to remove the ignorance of who I am truly. So this is a very nuanced question that Adi Śaṅkarācarya ji is asking us to really dig into. Don't just take everything for face value. Here's a Purva Paksha that is very valid. So at the end, once we know our true nature, that in itself fixes the entire relationship we have with our sense of self and subsequently the world around us. It sets straight the relationship that we have with it, and we can set forth in this world with a sure footing and have a very balanced vision of what the reality is. So with that, Swamiji, that's all I have.
Thank you, Divya. So as we proceed further from last week's shlokas in this beautiful text, ātmabodha, where Bhagavan Adi Śaṅkarācarya ji is focusing on, after the nididhyasana, there is the sakshatkara or svanubhava, and this svanubhava, what is its phala? What is the jnana phala? So in understanding this jnana phala, here in the earlier shloka, he uses a word called prapti. When the word prapti is used, it can lead to certain confusions. What are the confusions that it leads to? It can lead to our confusions where it is assumed, the moment you say that I am trying to acquire something, there is immediately a triputi that is formed. There is the transactional aspect of it which is recognized. But here when Bhagavan Adi Śaṅkarācarya ji is using the word prapti, it is from very simple term of understanding that the ajnana has been removed, ajnana nivritti, and that which I already am is revealed. Therefore, it is not something that is being acquired, that which is my very nature, I abide in it. Because it is not something created, therefore, praptasya ka praptihi. That which you are already, there is no special acquiring of it. Now, to remove that samshaya that the earlier example was given, see, no example is complete unto itself. With the sun example, that when the clouds are removed, the doubts of clouds when they are removed, then that which is the sun, it reveals its true nature of glow. But there is a prior incidence where the sun exists not, then there will be an after incident where the sun again exists not. Is this atmanubhava something like that? So to remove that was the last two shlokas. Now with the last two shlokas, he used the word prapti. Now to remove that misunderstanding that it may raise in our understanding, so he uses here a beautiful example. He says, sthāṇau purusha. You should hear Puja Gurudev talk about this in such elaborateness. When I say elaborateness, he makes it a half an hour storytelling. So it happens. It happens that sometimes in your neighborhood, you go out in the evening times for a walk. And as you go for a walk on a regular basis, you were not there for 2-3 days. Maybe it was raining or you were not in town. But as you come back, you want to resume your walk and you go in the sunset time. As you take the turn, it was that twilight time. There must have been a tree there. But that tree or something was cut. It's only the stump that is there, and that stump, the way it looks in that little darkness with just the silhouette of it, it is looking like somebody who's it is your imagination, right? So somebody who is standing there with a questioning authority kind of a thing, and you are in Texas. And in Texas, when somebody questioning kind of a thing is, and there is one branch which was there, which is uncut, which is standing up, it looks like a shotgun. So you pause and like, oh my God, what is somebody doing with a shotgun? Especially when we keep hearing of several shootings, and not the movie shooting, this is the gun violence and things like that. You get scared. There's a lot of data that has gone in, and now you are like very precariously walking, and then there is a gust of wind and this branch moves. Now the movement, you know that it is not something that a human being can do, but it is the involuntary motion that is happening of the branch. Oh, it somehow feels that it is not a person with a shotgun. So you take a brave step forward, and then you see that you remember that it was a tree, but in its place it is, oh, now it makes sense. It is just the tree that is left out where everything is cut. Now, as soon as you realize that it was the stump of that old tree, the moment that jnana happens, ajnana of that particular tree is immediately destroyed. Now, ajnana getting destroyed, there are several effects of that ajnana as well, right? Now, what are the effects of that ajnana? With the ajnana, there can be the effects of the entire samsara, and the agitations that we painstakingly carry with us constantly, all the effects of it, they also persist. So here, when in this particular shloka, Bhagavan is saying that when that sthāṇau puruṣavadbhrāntyā, just like how we have assumed that that particular tree or stump or post has been misunderstood as a person, and you feel threatened, the moment you realize that it is just a post, with that ajnana, all the repercussions of agitations, they get completely washed away. When in that jnana alone, the moment that jnana happens, see, there is karya, the effect. There is karana. When you remove the karana, sometimes what happens that the karya, the effects, may or may not subside immediately. Supposing you left for India, usually it is 5-6 weeks. So you make sure that your refrigerator is emptied out. You make sure that the fruits or whatever is, everything is removed. You distribute it elaborately. You don't want anything to be sitting. But just on that day when you are leaving, one of your kids was hurriedly eating a banana. That half-eaten banana was left on the table, and you come back after almost a month. As soon as you get in, there is that welcoming rotten banana flavor that hits you, that smell that hits you. So you immediately find the cause, that kārana from where this whole thing is coming is removed. But the effect of it is not immediately gone. You have to open all the doors, you have to open all the windows. And after some fresh air goes through, then maybe you need to use an agarbatti or a glade kind of a thing, and that is when the effect of it is gone. But here, what happens is, as soon as that jnana of that which I have assumed it to be something else hits, clicks, the root cause of it is removed and the effects of it are also completely removed. So here it says, jīvasya tāttvike rūpe tasmindṛṣṭe nivartate. That which is the very essence of this jiva, this individuality, when I come to realize, nivartate, that ajnana is removed. Now, where did I bring the phala of it? That continues in the next shloka, where he says, ahaṃ mameti ca ajñānaṃ. In the second sentence, you see that ahaṃ mameti ca ajñānaṃ. So ajñānaṃ is the cause. Then there is ahaṃkara, mamakara. Ahaṃkara means the identity of I, and to find satiation in that I-ness, I start relating to everything around me. I create my own samsara. My house, my car, my family, everything that I can relate to as mine. And I think Dasbodha, Samartha Ramdas ji tells a very beautiful story or a narrative, where he says, when you look at your house, think you have paid for it, you have constructed it, gotten it constructed, and now you are living in it. So it is your house. Though technically, until the mortgage is fulfilled, it is owned by the bank. The day you don't pay, they will kick us out. But then the idea is my house. So he takes a poke at that sense of mine. So who all thinks that house is mine? Bank wala, definitely. Right? Then he says, the architect who designed it, he goes around and maybe walking around with friends and says, that house, mera hai. I designed it. Right? The mason workers and other people that worked, they say, ye ghar apun ka hai. This ghar is also. It's your house, but there are so many people that stake their claim on it. Then he goes to two other funny examples. He says, the thief who wants to rob has marked that house. He says, aaj ke liye, for today, that is our house. Even that fellow finds that to be mine. And the last example he says, and there are a series of examples that he gives. One of the hilarious examples is the lizard, cockroach, and the other bugs that live there. They also claim that that house is theirs. So to claim, it is just the identification with it and how we claim. So there is kama, there is krodha, there is lobha, moha. The entire gamut of it just unleashes. So there is ahaṃkara and there is mamakara. And with that mamakara, there is the extension of the entire samsara that we live in. Now ahaṃkara, I am smart, I am whatever definitions. Aham sthulaha, aham jadaha, aham buddhimattaha, wherever, whatever is the definition or whatever is the mood of that particular moment, we start claiming. And then that which is mine. Where are these coming from? See, most of the life we do a patchwork in hope of some peace of mind, some joy, some security. So we do a patchwork in trying to adjust and manage that which I possess or own. In fact, the entire Western view of looking at it psychologically, the psychologists, they say if you can enhance that which you are holding on to as yours, then there is a boost in self-respect, self-worthfulness, and in that you start glowing, you start growing to a hilarious effect wherein I got once a letter. Usually the junk mail I don't even check, but right on the envelope they had written, Swami Sarveshananda, this is just for you. So that kind of, there was a bug that they initiated into my head. Personal address on the envelope itself, and it was looking like a handwritten, but it was a print. So I opened it. The first paragraph was so philosophical in its approach. You are what you think. You are how you present. You are this. This went into the paragraph. You bring to any environment the brightness with your smile. And if you are that one individual who is refraining from smiling because you have crooked teeth, we are your answer. We can boost your self-image by changing and reorganizing your teeth. And here is the first $50. I mean, the bill would be in thousands. They're giving me a voucher of $50 as a hook and bait for me to grab onto. Teeth is where your identity is. For some people, it is the hair, the color of it, or the absence of it, as the case may be. And there was a person who said, Swamiji, I'll take you to this place where they will take the hair from your own backside and plant it. It is going to be 15 days and all charge, everything, accommodation, everything, I will take care of it. Let's get it done. I said, what is the guarantee that it will not go back to this shape that it is now? There is no guarantee, but it is 80% successful. How much does it cost? Don't worry about the cost. I said, no, I am not worrying, not from that standpoint of worry, but what is the cost of it? I said, whatever was the cost. I said, even if you give 20% of it as a donation to Chinmaya Mission, I'll be happy. I am not interested in it. But we are identified with the hair, with the teeth, with the how I look, what I look. And with that I gain, or I feel lost, or feel like stuck. Supposing you stand in front of the mirror and you say, I need to do something. I look horrible. And ahaṃ, mameti, that whole gamut of it, it is so easily entrappable or entrapped in that it is very difficult to get out of it. And we keep doing patchworks only in the surface level. But when you come to Vedanta, what does it do? It says that which you are identified with and the repercussions or the impact of that which agitations that are yielding is there is a root cause. Remove the root cause, the effects of it, the karana, when it's removed, the karya also instantaneously, immediately is removed. Say our classic example, when we see the snake on the rope, right? The moment I understand that it is rope eva, what does that knowledge do when I realize that it is rope? Rope jnana removes rope ajnana. The moment that rope ajnana is removed, what happens? Sarpa bhranti, sarpa bhaya, all the repercussions of it, all of that immediately have been removed. Isn't it? It is not like the banana that you forgot and the repercussions of it takes a while for it to go away. Immediately that ajnana removes. When ajnana is removed, because of that jnana, as soon as the ajnana is removed, the ajnana's effects also get removed. So this is tatvasvarūpānubhavādutpannaṃ jñānamaṃjasā. This svanubhuti, how is it? Aparokshatvena. It is immediate subjective experience. How? In fact, one of the students of Bhagavan Adi śaṅkarācarya ji, he was named Hasta Malaka. Hasta, hand, palm. Amalaka. Amalaka is the gooseberry. जो आमला बोलते हैं ना. So that gooseberry. How clear is the experience? How unconfused is the experience? That clear is this experience. Anjasa. Anjasa meaning in your palms. If you place something, how clear is that experience? That clear is this subjective immediate experience. There is no mediation of any other agency here. It is the direct experience. By the self, of the self, in the self. Therefore, he says in the earlier shloka, he said, brahmaṇi, in that Brahman alone, knowing that it is my true nature, the ajnana nivritti is done. Thereby it is called prapti, and not as something being created, but to attain to that which is my natural state of being, swasthiti. So anjasa. And this is swanubhava. Swanubhava of what? Tattvasvarūpa. Tattvasvarūpa meaning it is my essential nature. He did not use the tattva guna. Tattvasvarūpa. Guna, qualities are attributes that can be gained, that can be lost, that can be reconquered or remade. Supposing you have a cup of coffee, not tall, not venti, grande, a bucket of coffee, big size. Usually this people have the habit, so you have to read the mantra. Otherwise, the tantri tantri meaning the one who knows how to make that coffee, when you're ordering, you don't give the right order in the right mantra, they will not understand. If you say that give me a hot cup of coffee with mocha in it, they will get confused. So it has to go in the mantra. What is the mantra? Triple, tall, extra hot, non-fat, 2% milk, whatever, the additions, add-ons, it has to go in that sequence. That is the mantra. Then the tantri will give you the hot, extra hot. You have to specify extra hot. So you get that liquid. You keep sipping on it. You reach office, you get into the job. Somewhere 1 hour, 2 hours later, you feel a little sleepy, and again you shake that cup and see that there is still left. You go to the nearest microwave it again. So in all this process, what has happened? Heat is the guna which you have specified, but it lost its guna. It can be reacquired. It can be modulated. That is the very nature of that guna. This is not guna, but it is my lakshana, my swarupa. And that is not something that is created, manufactured or acquired, that which already is my nature. Tattvasvarūpa anubhavat utpannam jñānamaṃjasā. That jnana which is immediate, subjective, what happens? As soon as that knowledge happens, the ajnana is removed. As soon as that ajnana is removed, its effects are also removed. Now, one point to remember here is, if there is even an iota of samshaya, doubt, that is not called jnana. Nissamshaya is called jnana. Therefore, what is the sadhana that is prescribed to us? Shravanam, Shravananantaram, Mananam kuryat. What does manana do? All these different kinds of samshaya that is there, doubts that are there, they have to be washed away, and they can be washed away only when there is the proper understanding, clear understanding. Triple C, crystal clear clarity. That is when these doubts have been handled with. Ajnana has another effect of it. One is samshaya. The presence of ajnana leads to samshaya. The other effect of it is also the viparyaya. Viparyaya is a technical word used to point at our habitual reactions. habitual errors of reacting. And it is not just this life's pattern. This samskara of the habitual errors is aneka janma samprapta. Now, how does one remove that as sadhana? Therefore, nididhyasana. And we have already seen what nididhyasana means, for which we have to pay attention to our own darkest crevices where we have not paid attention to recognize what are the things that trigger patterns of agitations, recurringly the similar kind. Most of the time we have a solution is we ask the world around us to change themselves so that they can accommodate me. And that is a very mediocre way of existence. Because when you keep forcing the environment to change themselves to accommodate you, there is a point of tolerance, vexation, and it comes to a break. A better way to handle it is when I identify these patterns, recognize them, and through the pointers that I have gone through in my scriptural study, my Shastra Vichara, where there is this lack, and that lack creates loneliness. The loneliness leads to depression. This is the sequence of it. Now, why is there that lack? How do I remove this? I remove it with the right substitute of knowledge, which is the opposite of it. We keep chanting Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Aham Purnaha Asmi. What does Purna mean? That I am complete unto myself. Without having any adhara of, adhara means support of anything else. Independent of everything, I am self-sustained completeness unto itself. I meaning here that conscious principle which is my true nature is complete unto itself. It is the antidote for this feeling of that mind agitation where it is apurnatva. There is insecurity. There are certain patterns of kama, krodha, lobha. We have to identify them. See, that is our swadhyaya. Studying ourselves in the most honest way, wherein every single pattern of my mind, emotions, feelings, behavior, they're recurring patterns. In a very honest way, I recognize them and see how each one of them throws out a web of layers where I constantly seem to be agitated. Now, in that list, prioritize them. Which one triggers me to agitated state of being with almost effortlessness? So that is the highest. So start working on the antidote from this standpoint of nididhyasana, wherein my recognition is the Shastra clearly is laying out none of these layers are my true nature. They are at the most my equipments through which I work. The repercussions that it is leading me to is causing these agitations. The root cause of this agitation is this pattern. Therefore, the antidote, that which the Shastra is explaining, the Upanishads are explaining, are these antidotes. So to do that vichara and nailing it down. Nailing it down happens only when that samshaya is removed. Doubts are removed. How can the doubts be removed? Only through manana. So that clarity, where is it to be applied? In nididhyasana, where these habitual errors can be precisely dealt with. See, supposing there is a stain on this cloth right at this spot, and I keep washing somewhere else and say that I have washed the cloth. No, pure clean cloth is only when that particular stain is removed. Now identify what that stain is, because depending on what that stain is, the stain remover can be applied. You cannot do in the name of sadhana andas cutting, perfect fitting. That cannot be the method. One has to realize what stain is. If it is oil, okay, before you soak it into hot water, take some talcum powder or vibhuti or atta, throw it there and nicely scrub it. That will take away most of the oil. Then take a light detergent which doesn't react to your cloth and start scrubbing it. Then in hot water, scrub it further. The hot water and the soap removes the lipids, and thus thereby your cloth has now become clean. But without having focused on what is it, that just trying, hit and trial method, that doesn't work. It has to be precise. And that precision comes only when I have evaluated myself honestly, and I know these are the trigger points, and this is the root cause for that trigger point, and an antidote of it the Shastra has supplied. Now I have to apply it consistently until that layer has been worked at. So once manana, nididhyasana, these are the disturbing factors. Then that jnana phala flowers forth, and the anubhava of it is complete unto itself. Otherwise, we keep hearing that this is my true nature. As soon as I step out of the satsanga, that environment, I get back to the older patterns before even I can realize that I have been sucked into it. Then where am I? What is my sadhana? What is my condition? It is like the puja's last step. When we do the Shodashopachara puja, what is the last step? Udvasana. What do we chant at that Udvasana time? Yatha sthanam pratisthapayami kshemaya punaragamanaaya cha. My condition is also like that. As long as I am in satsanga, there is that inspired, amazing clarity. But as soon as I step out of it, yatha sthanam pratisthapayami, I am back to the square one. There is absolutely no drift, no change, no shift. Why do we feel that we get back to the square one again and again? Because shravanantaram mananantaram nididhyasanam. That contemplation, that sincerity of application is a necessity for the jnana and its anubhava to be complete. Hope logically that makes clear sense. If you have any questions, please do not feel shy to post your questions onto the group that we have, and I'll make sure that we answer that as quickly as possible. So that is it for this week. We'll continue next week, same time. Be safe, and if you're traveling, follow the YouTube link. And if you have already been a part of that YouTube and subscribe to it, you know that it will post it to you. Follow it along wherever you are. At least the Shravana should not be stopped. Then comes Manana, then comes Nididhyasana. So be a regular part of it. We'll conclude with the Shanti Patha and see you all next week. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaः, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Take care, everyone. Hari Om.